The European Commission is meeting in Brussels to finalize a sixth package of EU sanctions. In a major shift, Germany says it will now back an immediate EU embargo on Russian oil. The EU has also warned member states to prepare for a possible complete breakdown in gas supplies from Russia, insisting it would not cede to Moscow's demand to pay in rubles. Kiev says Russia's energy exports to Europe are funding the Kremlin war in Ukraine with millions of euros every day. Now, Russia provides roughly a quarter of the natural gas consumed in the European Union, more in some countries like Germany. The vast bulk of those exports to the EU, some 80%, flow across Ukrainian soil. Now, the government in Kiev earns transit fees from Russia and is still, in fact, despite the war. The toll of the conflict, of course, vastly outweighs those revenues, and that's why Ukraine has been impatient for the EU to end gas imports from Russia. Now, earlier today, I spoke with the CEO of Ukraine's state-owned Naftogaz company, Yuri Vitrenko. I asked if countries like Germany were moving fast enough.
On one hand, we are grateful for the efforts to decrease imports of Russian gas and oil that we see at the moment. We understand that often it's not easy because, unfortunately, Europe made itself too dependent on Russian gas and oil. Finally, at least it's happening. As they say, better late than never. So Europe and Germany in particular, and Germany is leading this way inside the European Union, Europe is decreasing imports of Russian gas and oil. But of course, it's not enough. And we see it as a matter of fact, because this horrific war continues and civilians are being killed as we speak. So that is why we need to do more. In order to do more, there are many things that we all need to do so that bloody Putin regime stops getting money from Europe, again, to finance its military, to finance its public support, basically to finance its regime.
Throughout more than 2 months of this conflict so far, we've seen that gas infrastructure coming from Russia, going through Ukraine, has not been damaged in such a way as to limit the gas coming into the EU. Is there coordination between the Ukraine and Russia to ensure that this infrastructure remains untouched?
I would not call it coordination, but at the same time, we do see that they're not targeting with their missiles the transit infrastructure. So they're destroying our distribution infrastructure, creating humanitarian crises all over Ukraine. But they make sure that their missiles do not hit the transit infrastructure, because they want to keep this revenue stream to their regime that is coming from exports of Russian gas and oil.
You touched on this, but how bad is the gas supply or the gas supply issues in your country in terms of getting gas throughout the country?
On one hand, we have enough gas in our storage. We have sizable local production, so we don't have any scarcity of gas at the moment. But what we have a problem with is the distribution infrastructure, as I mentioned. Because in order to get gas to our consumers, we need distribution networks, we need heating plants that would then produce hot water out of gas. And unfortunately, in the areas where there is some heavy fight, over there, again, Russian army deliberately targets the pipelines, the plants, distribution stations, and we had to cut off many of our consumers. And in some cases, in the infrastructure was so damaged and destroyed that there was no way to deliver gas to our customers.
Is there anything you can do to rectify those issues? Is there any appeal you can make to the EU for more supplies or any sort of technical help, or is it just a matter of those areas being in conflict?
At first, again, we made this request, but in majority of cases, frankly, again, the damage was so serious that we need to rebuild it. And in many areas, heavy fights continue. In other areas where, for example, Russian troops had to leave because of the Ukrainian army, we're now trying to restore the infrastructure. Currently, with our own resources, we would welcome, of course, any international assistance. We understand it is coming, probably it's just too slow. But for example, in March alone, Naftogaz, the company that I have honored to manage, spent $1.3 billion as basically subsidies to our consumers as investments into infrastructure just to maintain it so that people in Ukraine were able to get enough gas.
All right, Yuri Fitrenko is CEO of Naftogaz Ukraine. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Europe is desperately searching for natural gas to replace those Russian imports. On paper, at least, the continent's largest gas field beneath the Dutch city of Groningen would appear to be a good option. But years of drilling there have had a devastating side effect: earthquakes triggered by changes in pressure. Now, last week, I visited Groningen to speak with residents about their experiences. Lawrence Mengerik gives me a tour of his home. It's falling apart.
In 2014, everything was repaired. Everything was fine again. Okay. So after 2014, it happened everything again. That you get these cracks.
Cracks in the window frames, in the walls, in the glass panes themselves. A pair of wooden braces is now the only thing holding the house together. Lawrence lives in a small village outside of Groningen, in the northern part of the Netherlands. For years, small earthquakes have rippled throughout the region. The culprit, a joint natural gas drilling project by Shell and ExxonMobil. The Dutch government says it intends for all drilling to end next year, at a time when Europe is desperate for more gas. Europe's largest gas field rests 3 kilometers beneath my feet. Decades of drilling here has left scars across this region. It's also left people here frustrated and even angry at their own government. At the same time, everyone understands how problematic Russian gas imports are for all of Europe. They just wonder what it means for the region and for their homes. It's estimated that just under 500 billion cubic meters of natural gas remain in the ground beneath Groningen. But production has been throttled back in recent years due to the earthquakes, to about an eighth of what it was just a decade ago. According to one survey taken at the beginning of Russia's war with Ukraine, a majority of residents in Groningen would support an uptick in gas production. But compensation is a big issue here. Drilling has been lucrative for the state, while home repairs across the region have been slow and hampered by bureaucracy. If I read one of those slides, George DeKam is a professor at the University of Groningen. He believes locals could be open to more drilling.
It started in 2003. I think they want to contribute to solutions of the problem, but it depends very much on the way they will be treated and respected in their own sorrows and the problems they have here.
Back in his village, Lawrence Mengerik has a similar idea about what should happen now.
To my opinion, we can open the gas tap and to take out more gas, but then from the finance profits, we should have a fundraising for repairing the houses that get damaged. Yeah, you see the same.
And maybe one day, he'll also be able to repair the damages in his own home.
Because,
British energy conglomerate BP has doubled its revenues for the first quarter, raking in $6.25 billion thanks to soaring oil prices. But the group has posted a net loss of more than $20 billion for the quarter after it decided to exit Russia over the country's invasion of Ukraine. In February, BP pulled its stake in energy group Rosneft, close to 20%, ending more than 3 decades of investment in Russia. Spencer Welch is an oil consultant and analyst for S&P Global. He joins me now. Spencer, thanks for coming on the show. So is this a banner time for oil majors like BP, or is it an especially difficult one, given these market swings and these abandoned investments due to the war in Ukraine?
Hi, good to be with you. I think it is. It's a challenging time, but I guess it's not unusual. If we look back at oil prices or gas prices or almost any commodity, it's rarely flat. It's often up and down, and so at one moment companies can appear to be doing extremely well, and the next moment things are challenging. You know, as we just heard with BP, they are benefiting from high oil and gas prices, but then there's the challenges of having to dispose of their business in Russia. So it's highly volatile.
These companies have now a lot of cash on their books because of these high prices. How are they using that?
I guess different strategies. BP's announced that they are going to be doing some share buybacks, which essentially helps to increase the price of their shares for their investors. BP's also announced that they are using the money to reduce their debt. I think both of those strategies will be similar for other companies. I would imagine the third thing is preparing for the energy transition, because these oil and energy companies are right at the forefront of needing to decarbonize, needing to move away from oil and gas, and that isn't free. That requires investment, and so I'm sure they will be saving some of the money now to help them make that energy transition.
All right, Spencer Welch there with S&P Global. Thank you very much.
Thank you.